report the chaos. We reveal the agenda.
Good evening and welcome to ATM. This is New York City, 2025, a city of 8.4 million people and a city at war with itself. Not a war of bullets, but of budgets, a war of rent rolls versus paychecks. By 2025, the New York dream had become a statistical impossibility for most. The city's housing vacancy rate had plunged to a historic low of just 1.4%. Half of households could not comfortably cover basic necessities. The affordability crisis was no longer a political talking point. It was an existential threat. The city was a powder keg, waiting for a spark. In times of crisis, New Yorkers looked to two political archetypes, the machine and the dynasty. In 2025, both were collapsing. First, the incumbent, Mayor Eric Adams. Elected as a tough-on-crime centrist Democrat, his administration had become consumed by scandal. Adams was indicted in September 2024, but in a move that stunned the city, the new Trump Justice Department moved to drop all charges in February 2025. This cemented a public perception of a quid pro quo. Adams, once a Democrat, was now seen as a political ally to a Trump administration, in a city where 6 in 10 voters oppose the White House's immigration policies. Then the dynasty, Andrew Cuomo, the 56th governor of New York, son of a political legend. He was forced to resign in 2021 amid sexual misconduct allegations. In March 2025, he announced his comeback, running for mayor. He entered the Democratic primary as the presumed frontrunner, betting on what one analyst called systemic political amnesia. The old guard offered New York a choice: a former governor defined by scandal, or an incumbent mayor defined by scandal. Traditional politics was no longer a solution. It was the crisis. Into this vacuum stepped a 33-year-old, first-term state assemblyman from Queens, Zohran Mamdani. By every traditional metric, he was an impossible candidate, a self-described Democratic Socialist. Born in Uganda, he only became a U.S. citizen in 2018. He was, if elected, set to be the city's first Muslim mayor, a fact that made him a political lightning rod. But Mamdani had one piece of experience that made him uniquely suited for this moment. Before politics, he wasn't a prosecutor or a CEO. He was a foreclosure prevention and housing counselor. While the establishment debated abstract concepts of experience, Mamdani had spent his career on the front lines of the real crisis. He'd worked with lower-income immigrant homeowners in Queens, fighting to keep them in their homes. The affordability crisis wasn't a talking point for him. He said it was the entire reason he ran for office. He wasn't just running on the crisis, he was a product of it. When Mamdani announced his run in October 2024, analysts dismissed him as a fringe candidate, polling at just 1%. The primary was Andrew Cuomo's to lose, but Mamdani ran a relentless campaign focused on affordability. His slogan, "A City We Can Afford," highlighted a direct response to the ongoing crisis. In June 2025, Zohran Mamdani defeated Andrew Cuomo in the Democratic primary. It was a major upset victory, signaling a shift in the political landscape. Mamdani declared, "My friends, we have toppled a political dynasty," but the war was just beginning. The old guard simply changed its uniform. Cuomo announced he would continue to run as an independent, setting the stage for a three-way general election. Mamdani was no longer just an annoyance. He was now a significant threat. The general election became a case study in what happens when the unacceptable candidate wins. The city's billionaire class, spooked by Mamdani's socialist policies, unleashed a financial onslaught. Super PACs flooded the airwaves, and the spending was staggering. former mayor Michael Bloomberg contributed $8.3 million to pro-Cuomo and anti-Mamdani groups. Hedge fund manager Bill Ackman added $1.75 million, and the Lauder family contributed $2.6 million. The attacks were personal and relentless, with Andrew Cuomo stating he's never ran anything. Billionaire Bill Ackman called him a fraud, saying the whole thing is an act. The attacks quickly curdled into open Islamophobia. On a radio show, host Sid Rosenberg suggested Mamdani would be cheering if another 9/11 attack occurred. Cuomo on the line laughed and agreed. Eric Adams added, "New York can't be Europe, folks. You see what's playing out in other countries because of Islamic extremism." A report found Islamophobic posts about Mamdani increased by 450% from September to October. It was a full-scale psychological operation, but the final and most surreal attack was yet to come. On November 3rd, the night before the election, President Donald Trump weighed in. Trump posted, "Whether you personally like Andrew Cuomo or not, you really have no choice. You must vote for him." He continued, "New York City will be a complete and total economic and social disaster should Mamdani win." Trump called Mamdani a communist and a proven and self-professed Jew hater. He even threatened to withhold federal funds from New York if Mamdani won. Mamdani responded, "The reason that the President of the United States of America is trying to get involved is that they know we will accomplish everything we have run on." It was the kiss of death for the old guard. In one move, Trump had fused the disgraced Democratic dynasty of Cuomo with his own MAGA movement. For voters, the choice was no longer socialist versus centrist, but Mamdani versus the Trump-Cuomo alliance. But the billionaires' air war was met with Mamdani's ground war. A grassroots army of nearly 100,000 volunteers had built the largest field operation in modern city history. On November 4th, 2025, New York saw the highest voter turnout in a mayoral race since 1969. More than 2 million New Yorkers cast a ballot, and the result was a clear mandate. At 9:30 p.m., the race was called. Zohran Mamdani had won. He won more than 1 million votes, the first candidate to do so since John Lindsay in 1969. Mamdani proclaimed, "Tonight, against all odds, we have grasped it. The future is in our hands." He continued, "A moment comes, which comes but rarely in history, when we step out from the old to the new. Tonight, New York has stepped from the old into the new." Mamdani had won, but how? And why? The answer wasn't in the victory speech, it was in the data. The 2025 election data reveals a city precisely split in two, showcasing a clear division among its residents. Mamdani's victory was not a citywide landslide. Instead, it was a highly targeted conquest, focusing on specific demographics. And analysis of precinct-level data clearly shows the emergence of a new political fault line across the city. Mamdani successfully won the New York that rents, while his opponent, Cuomo, secured the New York that owns. Mamdani built a powerful new coalition of the working class, encompassing renters, public transit riders, and various communities of color. Crucially, he activated a demographic that traditional politics had long ignored, the young, bringing fresh energy to the political process. The surge in youth turnout, which had begun in the primary elections, proved to be the decisive factor in his ultimate victory. This is precisely why the old guard failed to connect with the electorate. They were offering solutions to the wrong problems. Exit polls consistently showed that voters' number one issue was the escalating cost of living in the city. While Andrew Cuomo and the traditional machine focused their discourse on crime, Mamdani was the only candidate directly addressing the critical issue of rent. He didn't win despite his radical policies. In fact, he won precisely because of them, resonating deeply with the public. His unrealistic proposals were the only ones that directly addressed the primary grievance of affordability, offering tangible solutions. The failure of the old guard was fundamentally a failure of imagination, unable to grasp the true struggles of everyday New Yorkers. They couldn't see that the real scandal was that the city had become utterly unlivable for many. Zohran Mamdani's victory provided progressive Democrats with a new playbook for future campaigns and governance. However, for the new mayor, this victory was not an end. It marked the beginning of a challenging new three-front war. Problem 1. Albany. Many of Mamdani's signature proposals, such as tax hikes on the wealthy and free buses, require approval from the state legislature. A person who holds the crucial veto power over these initiatives is Governor Kathy Hochul. Hochul, a centrist Democrat, endorsed Mamdani to unify the party. Yet this highlights the paradox of the new Democratic Party. The same governor who endorsed him has already publicly stated her opposition to his proposed tax hikes, warning of potential tax flight from the city. The old guard isn't truly dead. It has merely retreated to Albany, regrouping for future political battles. The future of traditional politics now involves an intra-party war between the progressive, socialist base in City Hall and the centrist, business-aligned establishment in the state capitol. Problem 2. The White House. President Trump's threat to cut federal funds remains a tangible weapon against the city's budget, posing a significant financial risk. And problem 3. The billionaires. The class that spent millions to defeat him is not going anywhere. They will actively fight his agenda at every turn. Mamdani himself stated, "The conventional wisdom would tell you that I am far from the perfect candidate. I am young, despite my best efforts to grow older." He continued, "I am Muslim. I am a Democratic Socialist. And most damning of all, I refuse to apologize for any of this." The 2025 election was a clear mandate for change, demonstrating a powerful shift in voter priorities. It proved that a grassroots, multiracial coalition of the young and the working class could defeat a political dynasty, a billionaire onslaught, and even a hostile president. Zohran Mamdani proved that the impossible was indeed possible, inspiring many with his groundbreaking victory. Now he just has to deliver on his ambitious promises and navigate the complex political landscape. As Mamdani himself declared, "In this moment of political darkness, New York will be the light."